If I were dying, would you quit your job to be with me? That question hasn't stopped replaying in my mind since Liam asked it. It was late one night, too late for my brain to function properly, and I was hunched over my laptop, staring at the blinking cursor on my screen as if I could will it to write my final paper for me. My eyelids felt like sandpaper, my shoulders ached from sitting at the kitchen table for hours, and my head pounded with exhaustion. I didn't even notice Liam standing there at first. I don't know how long he'd been watching me from the doorway, his silhouette barely lit by the faint yellow light above the stove. If I were dying, he repeated, quieter this time. I froze. His voice was so low, so heavy, it felt like it carried the weight of an entire conversation he didn't want to have. Would you quit your job to be with me? He asked. I remember blinking up at him, completely thrown. I couldn't even get my mouth to form words, because the truth is, I didn't know what to say, because the truth is, I don't even know if she's dying. It all started a month ago. A month, though it feels like years. That was the morning his mom, Tanya, called crying. I still remember how his face changed when he answered the phone. At first, he was smiling. He just poured me coffee and kissed the top of my head before grabbing his phone from the counter. Then, a ring. His smile dropped. He froze as he answered. And then he went pale. For the next few minutes, he just stood there, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white, murmuring things like, oh my god, and no, of course, whatever you need. When he finally hung up, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. She's in the hospital, he told me flatly. They found something. I didn't even know what to say. Something? I asked. But that's all he said. Just something. And from that moment, everything in our lives shifted. Later that evening, she called again. This time, she said she couldn't bear to be alone after being discharged and asked if she could stay the night with us. Just one night. Of course we said yes. Who wouldn't? That's your mom. She arrived at our tiny one-bedroom apartment. An hour later, wrapped in a dramatic black shawl despite the warm spring evening, her eyes red and puffy, her suitcase rolling behind her. Thank you for this, she whispered as she stepped inside, glancing around as though she was already disappointed in what she saw. At first, I didn't mind. I thought, okay, it's temporary. She's sick. This is what you do for family. You make sacrifices, you show up. And it wasn't too bad at first. That first night, she claimed the couch, and we made her tea, and she cried softly and thanked us for being such angels. But then that one night turned into 2, then 3, then 7, and each day it got worse. I started noticing the little things. Like how she refused to let us turn on the air conditioning, claiming the cold made her skin hurt. And yet, she'd lock herself in her bathroom every morning and blow dry her hair for 30 minutes straight. She demanded we keep the lights off and the windows closed. Said she needed the apartment dark and quiet for her condition. Meanwhile, she left the whole place smelling like hairspray and something bitter, like sweat and lavender. She complained constantly about the furniture, about the food I cooked, about the smell of my shampoo. One night, and this still makes me sick to think about, she barged into our bedroom at 3 a.m, shaking Liam awake and insisting he come massage her because the pain is unbearable. We sleep naked, and she didn't even flinch when he got up and followed her out to the living room. Neither did he. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, my face hot with humiliation. And then there were her comments about my faith. The first morning, she noticed my little Buddhist shrine in the corner of the living room. She wrinkled her nose. What's that? She asked like it was something disgusting. I explained it was part of my practice. A way to remind myself to be kind, to breathe, to stay present. She just scoffed. Well, that explains a lot. Later, she told Liam she couldn't sleep in a home with satanic idols on display. So I took my shrine down. And when she demanded we hang a wooden cross on the wall to keep her spirit at peace, I hated myself, but I did it anyway. Then there were her health updates. One day she claimed she had an MRI scheduled. Then the surgery she said she needed was postponed. Then she said chemo was next, but it was delayed because of some infection. Then something about E. coli. Then back to chemo again. But every time she went to the hospital, they sent her home. No paperwork, no diagnosis, no answers. Just more crying, more drama, more stories. One night, while Liam was checking her in, a nurse even pulled him aside and whispered carefully, you should consider the possibility that she's exaggerating. But Liam didn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it. She's my mom, he told me later, like that was enough. The breaking point, at least for me, came one weekend when she called sobbing, saying we had to come help her get her jewelry before David steals it. David, her husband, the man she claims is an alcoholic, the man paying all her bills. We were supposed to take her to the after. Instead, we stayed at her house for 16 hours. 16. I folded 420 pieces of clothing, scrubbed her kitchen, cleaned her bathroom, changed her sheets, wiped down her baseboards. Not once did she say please. Not once did she say thank you. And when we finally got her to the A at 5 a.m, she waved us away like we were her drivers, saying she'd check herself in. 3 hours later, she called crying again, saying that A rejected her. And that was when I realized she didn't want help. She wanted control. And Liam was falling apart. He switched to remote work just so he could be there for her, even though his boss made it clear he was furious. He started skipping meals, stopped sleeping, snapped at me over nothing. One night, after a fight, he finally said it. "I just want her to pass," he admitted, "so we can finally move to Europe like we planned." And my heart broke. Because that's not living. That's just waiting to die. When David finally caught wind of what was going on, he started texting Liam, "I call bullshit. Don't show up at my house no more." Then later, "Sorry, she's got me all twisted up." Even he doesn't believe her anymore, but Liam still does. And last week, that was the final straw. She called again, crying, saying she needed help, but not from Liam, from me. Because apparently David was getting jealous of Liam spending so much time with her. That weekend was supposed to be my one chance to catch up on school before finals. I told Liam no. He just stared at me. "If it were your mom," he said slowly, "would you help her?" And I didn't know how to answer, because my mom wouldn't lie to me. My mom wouldn't use me like this. That night, I booked a ticket to Europe. 2 weeks, maybe 3. I haven't seen my mom in over a year. When I told Liam, he said he supports me. But then he called it a little selfish. And then he asked me the question that still echoes in my mind even now. If I were dying, would you quit your job to be with me? And the only thought in my head was, if you really loved me, you've never asked me to. The morning after I booked my flight to Europe, the air in the apartment felt different, heavier somehow. Liam didn't say much, just moved around the kitchen in silence, filling the kettle, buttering toast, his shoulders hunched like the world was pressing down on them. I watched him from the table, my coffee growing cold in my hands, my chest tight with guilt. I wanted to say something, anything, but every time I opened my mouth, the words just died on my tongue. Because how do you tell someone you love that you're leaving because of their mother? How do you tell someone you love that you're afraid you're losing yourself just to keep them afloat? That evening, after work, Liam came home late. His tie was loose around his neck, his hair disheveled, his face pale and drawn. He didn't even look at me as he dropped his bag by the door and sank into the couch with a sigh. I stood there for a moment, unsure what to do, before finally crossing the room and sitting next to him. "You okay?" I asked softly. For a long time, he didn't answer. Then finally he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. She called again. "I didn't have to ask who." "She says David threw her jewelry out the window," he continued, still staring straight ahead. "She wants me to go help her find it." I bit the inside of my cheek. "She said she called the police, but they wouldn't come," he added bitterly. And for the first time in weeks, I heard something new in his voice. Not sadness, not worry, but doubt. Still, he grabbed his keys and left anyway. I sat in the apartment alone that night, staring at the faint outline of the cross she'd made me hang on the wall. And for the first time, I let myself really think about what she'd taken from me. I thought about the nights I'd spent lying awake while she berated Liam in the next room for not doing enough, not caring enough, not being enough. I thought about the hours I'd wasted cleaning her house, folding her laundry, scrubbing her floors while she barked orders at me like I was her maid. I thought about the way she'd humiliated me, barging into my bedroom in the middle of the night while I lay there naked and ashamed, too stunned to speak. And I thought about how, despite all of it, Liam still defended her, still chose her over me, still believed her. And I realized in that moment that this wasn't just about her anymore. This was about us. When Liam finally came home around 3 a.m., I was still awake. He looked exhausted, his shirt wrinkled, his shoes muddy. "She was digging through the yard," he muttered as he kicked off his shoes. "Convinced the necklace was out there somewhere. Made me help her look for it for hours." I didn't say anything. "David came home drunk and started yelling at her," he continued. "I had to pull her inside and lock the door." Still, I stayed silent. He finally looked up at me then, his eyes tired and bloodshot. "You think she's lying, don't you?" he asked quietly. It wasn't really a question. I swallowed hard. I began carefully, that she's not telling you everything. That maybe she's exaggerating." He stared at me for a long time. Then finally, he let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah," he said, almost to himself. "Me too." But even after admitting that, he didn't stop. He still answered every call, still jumped every time she cried for help, still let her guilt him into doing more, getting more, being more. And with every passing day, I felt myself fading further and further into the background. The next morning, Liam's phone rang while he was in the shower. I glanced at the screen. It was her, of course. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, it rang again, and again, and again. By the 5th call, I couldn't take it anymore. I answered. "Hello?" There was silence on the other end for a moment, then a dramatic sob. "Oh, it's you," she sniffled. "I thought you'd still be sleeping. I really need Liam." "He's busy," I said curtly. She gasped. "Busy? Busy? His mother is dying and he's busy?" I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Tanya," I said as calmly as I could, "have you actually been diagnosed? By a doctor?" There was a sharp inhale on the other end. "How dare you?" she hissed. "How dare you question me after everything I've been through? Do you think I'd make this up? Do you think I enjoy suffering like this?" I didn't answer. "Put him on the phone," she snapped. When Liam came out of the shower, I handed him the phone without a word. And as I watched him take the call, watched his shoulders sag as she berated him yet again, I felt something inside me harden. I couldn't do this anymore. That night, Liam sat next to me on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "You booked your flight already, right?" he asked without looking up. I nodded. When? Saturday. He was quiet for a moment. Then he finally glanced at me, his expression unreadable. You know, it's a little selfish, he said slowly. Leaving me here alone with all this, my stomach twisted. But I didn't say anything, because maybe he was right. Maybe I was selfish, but maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I spent the next few days packing in secret moment stuffing. Clothes into my suitcase when Liam was at work, tucking away my passport, my tickets, my chargers. Every time I zipped up the bag and hid it in the closet, I felt a strange mix of guilt and relief. Guilt, because I was leaving him behind. Relief, because I was finally choosing myself. Friday night, Tanya called again. But this time, she didn't even ask for Liam. She asked for me. Said she needed a woman's touch. Said David was getting jealous of Liam spending so much time with her, so she needed me to come help her this weekend instead. I froze, because the idea of going to that house alone, being trapped with her and her manipulations, sent a chill down my spine. So I told her no, flat out. No, Tanya, I can't help you this weekend. There was silence on the other end. Then she let out a dramatic, shuddering sob. I see, she said coldly. I see exactly what kind of woman you are. And then she hung up. Liam didn't even look at me when I told him. Just got up from the couch and walked into the bedroom without a word. I followed him, standing in the doorway as he sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. You don't understand, he said hoarsely. Then help me, I shot back. Help me understand. Because all I see is a woman who's manipulating you, draining you, and tearing us apart. He looked up at me then, his eyes shining with hurt. She's my mother, he whispered. And for the first time, I realized that would always be his answer, no matter what she did, no matter what it cost him, no matter what it cost us. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. When my alarm went off, Saturday morning, I got up, showered, dressed, and rolled my suitcase out of the closet. Liam was sitting at the kitchen table, staring into his coffee. He didn't even look up as I walked past him toward the door. But as I reached for the handle, he finally spoke. If I were dying, he said softly, would you quit your job? To be with me? I froze, then slowly turned to face him. And for the first time, I answered honestly. If you really loved me, I said quietly, you'd never ask me to. And with that, I walked out the door. The airport was buzzing. With life that morning, families hugging, lovers saying tearful goodbyes, kids clutching backpacks and passports. Everyone was going somewhere, chasing someone or something. And so was I, but as I sat by the gate, staring down at my boarding pass, a dull ache settled in my chest. Because no matter how justified I felt, no matter how much Tanya had pushed me, no matter how much Liam had let her, I still loved him. And leaving him behind felt like tearing off a piece of myself. When they called my boarding group, I stood, took a deep breath, and forced one foot in front of the other. Step by step, towards something better, or at least, towards something that wasn't this. The flight was long, quiet, and strangely peaceful. For the first time in weeks, nobody was calling me. Nobody was asking me to fold their laundry or clean their house, or hang their cross, or rub their feet in the middle of the night. I wasn't anybody's unpaid nurse, maid, therapist, or scapegoat anymore. I was just me. And as the plane soared into the clouds, I let myself imagine what life might look like if I kept choosing myself. My mom met me at the arrivals gate, her face lighting up the second she saw me. She wrapped me in the kind of hug I didn't realize how much I'd been craving, warm and safe and real. You're so skinny, she fussed, pulling back to study me. Have you even been eating? I laughed, and for the first time in months, it sounded like me. Barely, I admitted. Well, she said firmly, we'll fix that. Over the next few days, I started to remember who I used to be. I slept in, ate real meals, took long walks through quiet streets lined with little shops and cafes. I sat with my mom over wine and told her everything about Liam, about how exhausted and trapped I felt. She listened without interrupting, her eyes sharp with something between anger and sorrow. You're not wrong for leaving, she said when I finally finished. You can't pour from an empty cup. But that didn't mean it was easy. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. It was always Liam, worried, then angry, then quiet. Finally one night he called. I almost didn't answer, but I did, because despite everything, I still cared. His voice was low, almost defeated. Hey, I echoed softly. I don't know what to say, he admitted. That makes two of us. There was silence for a long moment. Then he finally whispered, she's still calling me every day, asking for more, saying she's getting worse, saying I'm abandoning her. I closed my eyes. And are you? I asked. He let out a bitter laugh. I don't even know anymore, he said. I keep thinking if I just do one more thing for her, she'll finally be okay. But it's never enough. It's never enough. My throat tightened. You deserve better than that, I said quietly. So do you, he replied. The next day, I woke up to another message from him. Just 2 words, I'm sorry. And somehow, it felt like a beginning. A week later, I was sitting in a cafe with my mom when my phone rang again. It was Liam, but this time, his voice sounded different, calmer, clearer. I told her no, he said. I froze. What? I told her no, he repeated. She called this morning, demanding I drive her to another A because she thought she felt a lump, and I told her no. Told her to call David. Told her I couldn't do this anymore. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to break the spell. She screamed at me. He continued. Said I was killing her. Said I was choosing you over her. And for the first time, I realized she was right. And I didn't even feel bad about it. Tears stung my eyes. Liam, I'm not saying I deserve you, he said quickly. I'm not saying you should come back yet, but I just wanted you to know. I'm trying. And in that moment, I believed him. That night, I stood on the balcony of my mom's apartment, staring out at the city lights, feeling the weight in my chest start to lift. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel trapped. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel small. I felt like myself. And I realized that no matter what happened next, no matter what Liam chose or didn't choose, no matter what Tanya did or didn't do, I'd already won. Because I'd finally learned to choose me. When Liam called the next morning, his voice was quiet but hopeful. She's staying with David now, he said. He finally stepped up, or maybe she just ran out of excuses. Either way, it's over. She's not my problem anymore. I didn't respond right away. I didn't have to, because deep down, I knew that no matter how this ended, whether we stayed together, whether we didn't, he was finally starting to see what I'd seen all along. And maybe that was enough. I flew home a week later. Liam met me at the airport, standing nervously by the baggage claim, a bouquet of flowers in his hands. We didn't say much at first, just hugged, and this time, it felt like him. Not the shell of him I'd left behind, but him. We walked out to the parking lot together, the weight between us a little lighter now. And as we drove back to our apartment, he reached over and took my hand, squeezing it gently. I don't know what comes next, he said quietly. Neither do I admitted. But for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me, because whatever came next, it would be our choice, not hers. That night, as I lay in bed beside him, I thought about everything Tanya had taken from me. My time, my energy, my peace. But she'd also given me something I hadn't expected. She'd shown me just how strong I really was, and for that, I almost wanted to thank her. So here I am, lying in the dark, listening to Liam's steady breathing beside me, feeling the warmth of his hand still wrapped around mine. And for the first time in months, I feel like I can finally breathe again. Because I've learned something. Tanya never will. Love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself piece by piece until there's nothing left. It means knowing when to stay and when to walk away. And I'll never forget that again.